Well, g'day there traders and friends, market participants and enthusiasts right around the world. Thanks a lot for joining me as at this Monday afternoon market recap. Now, as I sit down and bring you this recording, we still have approximately 45 minutes left in today's session. However, what I can say as at this recording that the Dow Jones Industrial Average has pushed on back up above that 25,000 handle. We are moving towards roughly 25,020 points as I sit down and bring you this recording. So a relatively healthy session. It hasn't taken all that long for the markets to really decisively move to the upside. As long as we do not see a very late market pullback, this is not going to be that of a shooting star candlestick, and it is going to look a lot similar to that of a long day type of Morobozu candlestick, which is pushing above the high which we established Monday week ago. So very important type of candle today. We were a little bit suspicious if we were going to see that of a pullback to begin the week. You can see from today's candlestick, however, it looks as though we've kicked that sort of potential to the side, and we are seeing some pretty decent follow through when it comes to our individual top 12 individual trade list as well. Now, before I move into those trades, I also just wanted to give you a quick update on the Dow Jones Transportational Average, because this is something that we spoke about over the weekend, and we have been waiting for this to actually confirm. And the reason for this is because we generally use the transportational average in sort of alignment with the industrial average, and this is a part, or at least a tenet, of what we call Dow theory. And generally we use it to confirm the market indices when they are breaking to new all-time highs. Now, this starts to break down because we are not pushing back up above roughly this 11,400 handle. However, what is very important to note is that we are cracking above this resistance area that we've been sort of struggling to overcome really for the majority of 2018, since we established that waterfall sell-off, which led into the midpoint of February 2018. So as you can see, as at this current juncture, we're closing, or very close to closing, at 10,872 points. This looks as though we have just definitively broken above this resistance area. We were speaking about this over the weekend, and this is another sign of confirmation that the move that we're seeing on the industrial average and also the S&P 500 is that of a legitimate move. And again, we've been talking about how these two markets, of course being the Dow and the S&P, should play catch up and follow up to that of the NASDAQ strength that we have seen. Now, the NASDAQ didn't really get moving all that much today. We've been largely expecting this. Again, this moved into our conversation that we had on Saturday in that pro analysis class. But really what we've been speaking about again is the continued pull of this gap magnet, the gap all the way up here at 26,435 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And this is just another step in the right direction, which we're assuming is going to take us on all the way back up to this resistance area. You can see and go back through our catalog of videos on this YouTube channel. We've made a number of videos referencing the market magnet, the pull on up higher, and not to trade against the direction of the trend itself. And that trend is still to the upside, no matter which way you slice and dice it, whether it is the macro trend or the intermediate trend. This market is still looking healthy, and we are taking advantage of this. Now, again, you can see on the S&P 500, we haven't broken above the swing high of Monday, but we are getting very close to this breakout trigger at 2,746. We still have the open window up here at 2,852. So we're going to have to monitor this. It looks as though we're not going to get above this on Monday. But if we see, again, follow through as to what we're beginning to see during today's session, it could only be really a number of sessions, even potentially tomorrow, until we see this market definitively break on up above those areas of resistance. Now, what is also very important to note is the Russell 2000. Again, we've been speaking about this and referencing some of the symmetrical triangles, if not that of the ascending type of triangle pattern that does look to be breaking out. Again, today we are seeing that of a follow through, a little bit of a continuation. Again, this is showing us that the market breadth is still relatively strong. I would be somewhat concerned if we saw the Russell 2000 actually breaking below the support area and even breaking below this swing low. That would say that, hey, market breadth is certainly weak, or at least it's potentially reversing. We're simply not seeing this. So more or less the Russell 2000 is somewhat confirming that of the transportational average, and it's looking quite good because the industrial average, as we've already recapped, is looking to break above that Monday swing high. The NASDAQ is back up very close to its all-time highs, closing the gaps, and the S&P has been somewhat a little bit sleepy today, but at the same time we are very excited about the potential of this moving forward. Now, going into a couple of our individual trades. First of all, let me just recap some of the market indice positions we've entered during this little swing low over here. We've also entered where these hammer candlesticks presented themselves about 2.5 weeks ago. We've also jumped in during the bullish advancement dating back to the beginning of April. All of those positions on the S&P 500 are profitable. The next entry point that we're looking at is 2,746 to add to our already existing positions. If you have nibbled on some of the diamonds, relatively speaking, you've got in over during this period or at this reversal down here, if not potentially at 24.3, 24.7, or most recently up around 24.900. We did peak our head up above 25,000. That is going to take a little bit of time to play out, but above all, they have been tremendously profitable. And of course, the Qs as well. Down at these support areas, also some additional re-adds lately. You should be thinking about closing out of the Qs. The reason for that is because we are more or less closing the gaps on up here at 7,467. Now, what is interesting to note also is that gold is looking tremendously exciting down at the support area at 122.40. If we start to see a legitimate reversal off from this area, this could be an absolutely fantastic trade. You can see the weekly trend line of GLD, a series of higher lows and also higher highs. There's a good chance that if the US dollar reverses from these current levels around this 94 handle, this could be that of the intermediate bottom in GLD, which is in alignment with the bigger and larger macro bullish trend. So if you see something like this, it makes a lot of sense. And if I bring up some of these oscillating indicators, you can see for yourself that we are relatively oversold, especially on the RSI and the MACD. Although it hasn't turned up to the upside, you can see a number of white candlesticks and also increasing volume as well right at this trendline pivot. So I am paying very close to GLD, and so should you also. Outside of that, we do have, or let me just close this dialog box here. Let me bring up Boeing Airlines. Boeing Airlines has taken off today. You can see it gapped above our 356 target. So we entered into Boeing Airlines at 336.62, and it's only been, I mean, you can count these sessions with me. It's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's been 11 weeks, and here, 11 days, and here we are up at $362.92. So a very profitable move on Boeing Airlines. A massive session today, up $11.69. With this move here, you can almost guarantee that we are going to see a pullback to close this window. So if you are holding Boeing Airlines, it would be a good idea to actually liquidate that trade or a portion of that to take some profits, put it in your back pocket. Because there is a good chance that we are going to more or less turn at this area, come on back down and close the gap before we continue to the upside, which is going to set up, I guess, the perimeters and the nucleus for our next trade on Boeing Airlines moving forward. Outside of that, on our top 12 individual trade list, it has been a little bit sleepy. Apple largely moving sideways, going nowhere. The same with Amazon. If I can bring up Netflix as well, sort of still continuing to go sideways. This is all sort of bubbling volatility under the surface, which is going to spring to the upside if these markets still continue. Interestingly enough, IBM is pushing above this 144 handle. So personally not in this, but hey, if it chooses to continue to run, it's going to be great, because I know there are a few people in Pro who are still holding that. Google, something that we spoke about over the weekend, you're just going to have to leave this alone. It's up $12.60 today, but at the same time, there's not really all that much of a great opportunity to enter into this for, I guess, the first time if you don't have original positions. The original positions were at 1,050 and also 1,055. Now, just to bring up a couple of other stocks that we have been paying attention to, ticker symbol DAL was Delta Airlines. Looking at this at about 51.90. This is up at 54.25 at the moment, so that is working out very, very nicely. Its close cousin, however, LUV, if I can bring this up, isn't really getting, or at least gaining, as much traction as what Delta Airlines is. It is still looking okay. It looks as though we are setting up that of sort of like a falling sort of 3 pattern. If we see a long day white Mobozo, it is going to be another continuational signal. And I am still looking at this coming up to about $59 and then ultimately 61 moving forward. But it is sort of stuck in the mud at the moment. It's not really getting the traction as you could already see on that of Delta Airlines. Another interesting stock, TWX. I think this is just sort of coiling. It's ready to move, especially during today's sort of candlestick. You can see just here, this is what we call a hangman sort of candlestick at resistance, or you could even call it that of a hammer at support. What is interesting to note is that the previous day, this is dating back to Friday last week, we had some very nice healthy volume with this nice long white day Morobozu candlestick. And really the candlestick today being Monday is that it's within that of Friday's candlestick. But this is still showing us that there's a lot of dip buyers in TWX. We've had this entry at 94.58. We may not come back down to 92. This may be the breakout move that we've been looking for. And another candlestick today pushing us in that overall direction. Okay, so that's going to do us as at Monday. If you have any questions, please email me, success@pivotpoint-trading.com. I wish you all a very nice Monday evening. I'll be back with you later in the week for some more market addresses. All the best, everyone. It's James signing off on behalf of Pivot Point Trading. Farewell.